This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Yes, this is your host, Harry Wilkinson, and welcome once again to the Spirit and Wellness Show. Well, I hope once again. I hope you're a returning listener. If you're a new listener, welcome. This is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world, happenings in politics, in the media, film, television, entertainment, everything that affects our world, everything that we are interacting with or which is interacting with us. And we take a look at it from a higher perspective. We take a look at it from a spiritual perspective. And as always, well, not always, but most of the time at the top of the show, I like to remind people this is not a religious program. And it's not a religious program, although particularly this particular episode we are going to be talking about religion. And we do talk about religion, but this is not carrying any particular religious perspective or belief system. This is about connectedness. This is about oneness. This is about understanding the truth that is behind it all, which is our oneness and the truth of our nature as beyond what we currently understand, certainly beyond what we think of as the physical. Although every day with the research that is done in areas like quantum physics and so forth, we're finding out what we thought physical was isn't exactly true, which is fascinating in and of itself. But more to the point is that the idea behind what I do here is to take a look at these stories which may, on the surface, seem to be upsetting, seem to be disturbing, or at least designed to push certain buttons that create anxiety within us. This is done very well and very professionally by those who are what they call media gatekeepers, those who make decisions about what gets aired or what gets broadcast, and how it's, how it is spun, if you will. And so these professionals are very good at trying to present things that will get the most attention, and they get the most attention by making them, perhaps a bit over the top, if you will. It's not that these stories don't deserve to be told, it's just that the way that they are presented in many cases it's designed to get the most attention because they're in a business that defines itself via ratings, and ratings are what make the networks and the news industry money, and increasingly our news and information that comes to us is dependent upon more and more upon the bottom line of some mega corporation rather than actual public interest. I could go on about that. I don't intend to. What's important here is the idea that these stories are stories that we are creating and that we are telling ourselves about ourselves. These happenings in the world that seem very real, and they should seem real, are part and parcel of our ability to create. So my take on it is we as humans are two We are two. We are pardon me, we are two. We are what we know as our everyday conscious awareness of our, daily thoughts and routine and what our physical body is up to. And then we also are at a much higher level that in our conscious awareness or ordinary awareness, we are unaware of. And that level of being, if you will, is something, there are so many terms for it. I sometimes refer to it as divine mind, but it is the highest level of ourselves. And my theory on it is that, and it's not, I can't claim ownership to that theory. Many people have, over the centuries, expressed the same idea, that what we have called God in different cultures around the world, in different ways, is actually a projection of our divine nature, projected outward and put into the form of an other. And this may be for many reasons, among them that it's too powerful for us to even understand, so we disconnect from it or create an illusion that it is something outside of us, like an old man with a beard who hides behind pearly gates with angels around him or something along those lines. But really what we're talking about is ourselves. So that any worshipping of this is a way of connecting to our highest self. And that's kind of how I see these things. So today's show, we're going to talk about ways to relax via yoga. We often talk about yoga poses. That's part of the wellness portion of the Spirit and Wellness show. And we're going to continue our talk about near-death experiences and the theory of 5 phases in the near-death experience, and what they may mean and how they may be scientifically verified. We talk a lot about science on the show, and more how science is verifying phenomena that, to the extreme discomfort of many, including scientists, bear out phenomena like intuition, psi, telepathy, and things like near-death experiences. So that's another recurring theme in our show that we talk about. But today we have to get also to, I guess the first thing that we'll talk about today is what the title of our episode is today, which is Bombing for Peace. So we are hearing an awful lot in the news about how we need to invade, attack, bomb, degrade and destroy in order for there to be peace, particularly in the Middle East. Now, as you may have known or heard, President Obama made a speech to the nation this week in the shadow of 9/11, interestingly enough, talking about this new big bad Batman villain that we have created by the name of ISIS or ISIL or however you want to say it. They're a terrorist organization, and they've been doing terrorist organization type things in the Middle East. They're gaining a lot of ground out there. People are scared of them. They've beheaded some journalists of ours that had been captured. And so now the war drums have been being beaten. Now the idea is to we've already been bombing over there in an attempt to, I guess, help the Iraqis who are being victimized by this organization. And it's just so interesting in a week where we are remembering the events of September 11th, 2001. The terrorist attack that brought down the Twin Towers, that blew a hole in the Pentagon here in Washington, D.C., and that crashed a plane in Pennsylvania and took the lives of so many people. That we should be so obtusely in sort of this Groundhog Day-ish, let's do it again mode. If you're not familiar with the movie Groundhog Day, that's what I'm referencing. It's a movie starring Bill Murray. Bill Murray plays a TV weatherman who goes to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania to cover the groundhog, and finds himself waking up and reliving the same day over and over and over again. Well, yeah, here's kind of what's happening with our ideas about war and attack and violence. It's more and more clear if you take a look at history that every time we attack thinking we are attacking an enemy, that we are attacking something outside of ourselves, that we are really attacking ourselves. And, for many that's some sort of, high-minded philosophical parable, but it's not. You can see it very concretely at work. We experienced the attack on 9/11 from a group of people, terrorists, led by Osama bin Laden. And Osama bin Laden was trained to attack by none other than the United States. He was in the war in Afghanistan that we covertly supported by arming himself and others to fight against the Russians, because the Russians were the bad guys at that time, which, interestingly enough, we've come full circle, not unlike the shifting enemies and friends in the novel 1984. We're back again, demonizing the Russians. But anyway, that's another story. So, in doing this, we set up the situation for Osama bin Laden to arise and gather his organization, well funded, by the way, also through us, our money to oil and to the Saudi Arabians. And in fact, interestingly enough, the bin Laden family, very close friends with the Bush family, as in George W. Bush and his family. It's interesting how that all comes together. So what we don't learn is that when we bomb, we create future enemies for ourselves. The goal needs to be to stop attack. Obviously, you want to stop the attack. And we stop the attack so that the attacker doesn't hurt themselves. By thinking that they are hurting others, they're destroying themselves. As we are when we attack. And we know these lessons well. We know them, but we create these situations, I think, to experience a way to reconnect or relearn the truth. I'm not exactly sure why. We seem to know them. In fact, I heard no less a political figure than Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, on an interview with, I think it was Bill Maher. And she said, we know war begets war. She said it in complete truth. War begets war. And then followed it with, but on the other hand. So we're clearly of two minds about something that is really only one truth, which is, attack begets attack. Attack is an illusion. Attack cannot lead to peace. The mind that is at peace, the mindset for peace, is not the mindset of war and conflict. It can never be. We are peace. Our very being is peace. But often we need to seek out or create that which we are not in order to more fully experience that which we are. So it brought to mind a section of A Course in Miracles book, which I spent quite a few years working with, and I still refer to it quite often. And it really says, I think, quite a bit of what I'm talking about here. So this comes from a section of the book called The War Against Yourself. And really all wars, all attack is simply a war or attack against ourselves. So it says, the means of war are not the means of peace. And what the warlike would remember is not love. The memory of God comes to the quiet mind. It cannot come where there is conflict, for a mind at war against itself remembers not eternal gentleness. War is impossible unless belief in victory is cherished. So in other words, you have to think that there's some sort of victory that you're going to get. By attack. That something is going to be accomplished through that. And, we still have a strong belief in that. So, as our president has, been very cautious about getting us involved in these things, You've heard the criticism. You've heard the drum beats get louder and louder and louder until there was no longer any way to really resist that, because we still believe that there's something that we can achieve through this. And as long as we believe that, we'll continue the cycle. We'll continue the Groundhog Day reliving of, these situations. It's something that, is part of, I guess, our evolution. I have to look at it that way. If you remember, though, by the end of Groundhog's Day, after Bill Murray had lived this day over and over and over again, trying every conceivable permutation and change that he possibly can, by the end of it all, he's learned a lot. He's become more fully who he really is. He's become more of a person than he was when he started out at the beginning of the movie. And that's probably the same principle here. We don't know how long it will take. We don't know how long it will, how many lifetimes we'll have to go through with it, but it's a remembering, a realizing, a revelation of who and what we are, which is, as I say, truthfully, oneness and peace. So that's my take on it. I'm sure I will be coming back to that subject as things progress with all of these situations. And I didn't just mean to talk about ISIS or ISIL or whatever. Also, there's other things going on. There's the Ukrainian situation. There's what's going on in Syria, which now we are planning to either bomb or arm people or both, whatever. That's gonna sting. That's gonna leave a mark, as they say. And here we go. All right, on to more interesting topics as far as I'm concerned. So, past few episodes we've been talking about near-death experiences and the phases. According to a Dr. Maureen Vencelar, she is a teacher and independent researcher, and she lives, I believe, in the Netherlands, it seems, and she's on the Institute of Noetic Sciences website with this article on the physics of near-death experiences, a 5-phase theory. So this is her theory of the 5 phases that we go through, or that are gone through by people who experience a near-death experience. So, we've talked about how their common experience is the sense of being out of your body, the experience of a ghostly body of energy that's a copy of your physical body, seeing moons and stars, seeing that tunnel, and moving towards the light. So what she has done is to take a look at this from a middle ground perspective. Because as she mentions, there's 2 ways that, the most common beliefs about near-death experiences. The first one considers the near-death experience to be just a simple neurological phenomena. The brain is shutting down during a trauma. It's not getting enough oxygen or whatever, or is being overstressed, and this creates hallucinations and the sense of seeing the light or the tunnel. It's not really happening. It's just an hallucination caused by the brain's malfunctioning, if you will. And the second explanation, of course, is that the near-death experience is a supernatural phenomena, that something is happening, something is being received by the brain from beyond the known world, our own known reality. So what she's doing is to take a look at a third way, basically, somewhere in between these 2 points of view, where she thinks the truth might be. So we talked about the separation from the physical body. That's the first part. And her theory, based on what we know from physics, is that the traumatized body gives off exotic photons of light energy that condensed can create this photon body of light through the releasing of light energy. And it's good to remember that, what we think of as the physical world is really frozen light that is moving at a very slow speed. Okay, so we also talked about her phase 2 of the experience, which is the journey through the tunnel. And this she explains through the theory of wormholes, that the energy released by the body that is dying can create tiny wormholes. And that, she cautiously concludes, may be what the tunnel actually is. And then the moving towards the light, that's the third phase that she explains. And again, she talks about going through the wormhole, and that the light is, like in wormholes, there is an event horizon, they say, that is at the door of the wormhole. And that, she says, is where the light may be coming from. And that is where people who are having the near-death experience may be stopped. And they don't cross through the wormhole that would take them to wherever. They are brought back to their physical bodies. So that brings us to phase 4, which is the return to the physical body. So the experience that she outlines from people who have spoken of this, the near-death experience people report seeing a blue-green or red-pink beam of light that they can choose between. They know the blue-green beam means continuing their life on Earth, and the red-pink beam means the end of their life on Earth. Their thoughts seem to be crucial to this choosing process. NDE people return, of course, sometimes against their will, through a still open private tunnel back into their physical bodies, and for the second time they see stars and planets on the way back. So her scientific reasoning about this is that she theorizes that these beams of light are probably due to the Doppler effect. During such a phenomena, blue-green light is created when stars, matter, or stardust approach us, and red-pink light is created when stars, matter, or stardust recede from us. So, again, she's talking about these two universes meeting through, the black hole. And so, if that's happening, then that's where these beams of light, in combination with our thoughts, appear to be determining our destiny. Finally, the near-death experience people travel back as a dot, due to both gravity as well as, in theory, the coming together of the energy of the exotic body, that light body, that appeared, from the photons of the dying body, and that holds this tunnel or this wormhole open. So the coming together of that body with the energy that has held the private tunnel open through the intra-universe wormhole, the tunnel through space-time. So then the fifth phase and final phase is near-death experience people re-entering the body as a ball or dot and then experience a sense of expansion as they regain full consciousness. They again feel a kind of vibration during the process of reconnection as well as the pain of the physical body. They have usually forgotten any wisdom they may have received when they were near the heavenly light. And some near-death experience people wish to return to that heavenly light. So her scientific point of view from this is that nowhere is gravity exactly the same, neither on the Earth nor throughout the universe. Therefore, the attraction between objects, stars, stardust, and so on is not always the same. Because of gravity or its absence, objects, stars, and stardust can either cluster or not. Gravity exists on an astrophysical scale and on a physical scale. So she's saying this has to do with gravity. And her cautious conclusion is, when near-death experience people return, they do so with a very compact body. This is maintained during their journey through that tunnel or wormhole from the extreme forces of gravity that exist there. They then unfold into their physical body due to the reduction of the force of gravity. All the light energy flows back into the atoms of the physical body and connects with it. Electromagnetic values probably change again, and as the trauma stabilizes or decreases, daily consciousness is regained. So, she looks at this from an astrophysical perspective. And that's her five-phase theory. It's fascinating, and it certainly, has some scientific validity to it. Certainly people who've had this experience have felt the reality of it. And there are those that may wish to debate that, don't believe it. But, as far as the mind is concerned, if an experience feels real, seems to be real, the mind deals with it as if it, is actually happening. So that's something to consider too. Have a good week.